In this video, we're going to use Google's Cardboard VR to look at the basics of taking this 3D game and making it into a VR game. But first, just a bit of housekeeping. I'm just going to create an empty here, and I'm going to call it buildings, and I'm going to put all the buildings into it just so they're out of the way. All of these guys here, and these ones here. Now, let's get back to Cardboard. We're starting with Cardboard because it's probably the most accessible of the VR platforms, and Cardboard games will work on pretty much all mobile devices, at least provided they have a gyroscope. Let's get started by importing the Cardboard SDK. If I just switch over to a web browser, and I'm just going to Google Unity Cardboard SDK download, and Google will find the download page for me. And here it is here, download and samples, first hit. And just download this zip file and unzip it. Now I've already done that and I have it on my desktop, so I'm going to go back to Unity and I'm just going to import it. Import custom package, and the one that I want is this Cardboard SDK for Unity. And after clicking open, in a minute we'll get the import dialog, and we're just going to import everything. Once this import is done, we'll have two new folders. We'll have a Cardboard folder and a plugins folder because Cardboard uses plugins. Later we'll look at Oculus, which doesn't require plugins. So as you see, here is the Cardboard folder and the plugins folder. Let's open up the Cardboard folder and open up the prefabs, including the UI. We're not going to look at audio for now, so you don't need to look at the audio prefabs. And we can disable our main camera. We can disable our FPS controller. We'll come back to our combined car and enable the car controller. And let's just drag in this Cardboard main prefab. And as you can see, we've got some cameras set up in there already. Let's drag this Cardboard prefab inside of the combined car. And we're going to position it behind the steering wheel. So I happen to know where that is. It's minus 0.5, 1.25, and about minus 0.15. You can place yours where you like it, but as you can see down here, that's about behind the steering wheel. And at this point, we could actually run the game. I'll just mute the audio, and I'll run the game. And the nice thing about Cardboard is if I hold down the Alt key or the Option key, it simulates head tracking when I move the mouse. So I'm holding it down, and as you can see, we have pretty much made one of these bodiless VR games. One of the things you'll notice though is there's no retina tracking. We don't know exactly where our retina are in these cameras, and we can fix that pretty easily. There's a reticle in UI here. You can see here the Cardboard reticle, and we can just drag that inside of the Cardboard main head main camera. Just grab this Cardboard reticle and drop it right inside there. And now run the game again. And you see these little white dots? There's one right here, and there's one right here. Let me just move a little bit. And that's where we'd be looking. So that's kind of the center of our eyes. The way we're going to interact with objects in the VR game is we're going to look at them, and then once we look at them, we'll use buttons to interact with them. In order to look at them, we need to use raycasters. So we're going to use this main camera, and we're going to come up here to the component event. And you'll notice right here there's this thing called a physics raycaster. So just add that physics raycaster onto the main camera. And that's what's going to generate the events so that we can look at things in the scene. And since we're going to be looking at things in the scene using events, we need to have an event system. So right here in the UI, add the event system. We don't need the standalone input module. You can remove that. But we do need another input module. We want to have two inputs. We want to have the gaze input module, which we can add from this Cardboard menu. And there's the gaze input module. And the other one that we want to have is from the event system itself, and that's going to be the touch input module to get the clicks. So now we have those two modules as well as the event system set up. Next, we need something to look at. So I'm just going to scroll inside the car, and the thing I'm going to look at is the gear shifter. And there it is right there. So I want to kind of get close to that gear shift. And I'm going to create a new game object, a 3D object, and it's going to be a sphere. And you can kind of see it poking out there. It's pretty big. Let me just move it up a bit. And we don't want our gear shifter to be quite that big, so let's make it a little bit smaller. 0.1, 0.1 and 0.1 and bring that up. And I'm just going to position that on top of the shift handle. It doesn't need to be exact, but kind of get it where you want it to be. And then actually rename this so that it's called something like shift trigger and drop it inside the car. And usually after I do that, I'll come up here and I'll kind of round these positions to be a little bit better. You know, that should probably be closer to 0 and 0.69, maybe 0.725 and 0.35. Pretty close. Make it 0.358. You can position that wherever you want to. It's not that important. Now we want this thing to trigger events. So again, we're going to add a component to this, and it's going to be under event, and it's going to be an event trigger. And the events that we're going to want, we come down here to add the events. We're going to want the pointer enter, the pointer exit, and the pointer click for now. We could use other events, but that's good enough. So that will allow us to look at the object and have the object send events, and not look at the object and have it send events, and click the button while we're looking at the object and have that send events. And I think at this point, if we run the game, we should be able to see that in action. Again, I'm holding down the Alt key or the Option key, and I'm looking at this thing. And as you see, that circle is changing as I look at it. So the events are being fired and the enter and exit are being triggered. Now we want it to do something when these events occur. And in order to have it do something, we're going to have to write a script. Since writing a script takes a little bit of time, I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to come back in the next video and I'll write the script to process the events and have that object do something when I look at it and click.